Hello everyone, welcome to Inconvenient Truths. I'm your host, Jennifer Zeng. On June 7th, the Chinese National College Entrance Exam, or Gaokao in Chinese, commenced. Xi Jinping's quotations became the topic for the essay section of the exam, sparking a lot of discussions. At the same time, following the recent report on the agriculture police, the cultural police team has also made a high-profile appearance in China. So today we will talk about these two matters and explore their connection. June 7 marks the first day of the Chinese National College entrance exam, with a record-breaking participation of 12.91 million students taking part in this exam, entering university and securing a good job after graduation is nearly the only path for children from ordinary Chinese families to move ahead in society. So Gaokao is referred to as the thousands of troops crossing a single log bridge. Every student has to pass this single log bridge to move ahead in society. So the annual college entrance exam always attracts extraordinary attention. This year, there were 7 sets of essay papers for the college entrance exam. The national version B, proposed by the CCP's Ministry of Education, featured the following essay topic. Quote, blowing out others' nights will not make oneself brighter. Blocking others' paths will not make one's own journey further. The prompt emphasized the idea that a single flower does not make spring, but 100 flowers in bloom bring spring to the garden. Unquote. The exam papers specifically mentioned that the above 2 passages were from speeches given by Xi Jinping. The candidates were required to write an article reflecting on their own thoughts based on these materials with a minimum length of 800 words. The materials cited were Xi Jinping's speech and the dialogue between the CCP and world political parties in March this year, and his speech at the headquarters of the United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization in March 2014. The inclusion of Xi Jinping's quotations in the college entrance exam has sparked a lot of public debate. Some people say that recently Cai Qi, a member of the new Politburo of the CCP and in charge of ideology and propaganda, has just demanded that the entire nation learn Xi Jinping's selected works with their minds, hearts, and souls. Now, Xi's quotations immediately appear in the college entrance exam. The CCP's Ministry of Education is closely following suit. As far as I can see, when something happens for the first time, it is bound to happen again. From next year onwards, Xi Jinping's quotations may appear in the college entrance exam once more. In order to achieve good results in the exam, students, parents, and teachers will have to consciously and voluntarily strengthen their study of Xi's ideology and make it deeply ingrained in their minds. So the effectiveness of brainwashing will be really good. Starting brainwashing from an early age is not a novelty in China. Due to the Communist Party's control over all social resources, textbooks and exam papers can be used to serve political purposes. For example, after the persecution of the spiritual practice Falun Gong began, false accusations against Falun Gong appeared in textbooks and exam papers. On one hand, the CCP forcefully instills false attacks against Falun Gong into students' minds, and on the other hand, they use the college entrance exam to filter out those who refuse to repeat the CCP's lies, causing them to fail the exam and lose the opportunity to attend university. Actually, after the Cultural Revolution, China went through a brief period of reflection and discussion on whether worshipping the leaders should be promoted. Following the restoration of the college entrance examination, especially after the so-called reform and opening up, there was a temporary reduction in the political and personal worship elements in Gaokao questions. Also, with the introduction of Western science and technology, many people were exposed to various Western cultural ideas, humanistic values, and pursuit of individual freedom. Gradually, they perceive these values as universally accepted, and everyone should adhere to them. So that's why when Xi Jinping's quotes were appearing in textbooks and Gaokao questions just like that of Mao Zedong, many people feel surprised. They regard this as an undoubted signal that China is embarking on a cultural revolution too. Another point to note is that the Xi Jinping quotes used in Gaokao questions may sound noble and grandiose, but they are actually targeted against the US and oppose it. Phrases like blowing out someone else's candle will not make yours shine brighter, blocking someone else's path will not make yours go further, and a single flower does not make spring, but hundreds of flowers in full bloom bring spring to the garden are all about US sanctions against the CCP or the countermeasures that the international community has had to take in response to the CCP's various aggressive military and economic behaviors. However, when the CCP presents these quotes, it portrays itself as a victim and attacks the US for trying to blow out the CCP's candle. By teaching students such content and using it as a topic for essay writing, there's no doubt that the ideology of resenting the US is being instilled in students' minds. Students come to believe that the diplomatic difficulties the CCP faces are all because the US wants to blow out the CCP's candle. In this way, the CCP not only implants anti-American sentiments in students' mind, but also absolves itself from blame. Therefore, this is the current state of China's environment, which people from the international community must understand. Now, let's take a look at the cultural police that just made a very high profile appearance on China's stage. Chinese people call them Wenguan in Chinese. On May 30th, the official website of the Heilongjiang Department of Culture and Tourism released a piece of news stating that the province held a unified dressing ceremony for the provincial cultural market comprehensive law enforcement team with more than 500 participants. Here is also a photo taken at the scene. The report also specifically mentioned in front of the solemn and sacred law enforcement team, there were also 5 large unmanned aerial vehicles parked neatly. One cannot help but wonder why does a comprehensive law enforcement team for the cultural market need so many large drones? The official report says the uniform and no-go for the comprehensive administrative law enforcement of the cultural market includes 8 major categories and 18 subcategories. categories, such as headwear, clothing, footwear, and logos. The logo of the comprehensive law enforcement of the cultural market primarily features the Chinese character Wen, which means culture, and a gate pattern, showcasing the reform requirements of integrating culture and tourism. The five-pointed star and shield patterns reflect the authority of law enforcement, while the olive branch symbolizes the concept of justice and civilized law enforcement. This is the badge of the Cultural Market Comprehensive Law Enforcement Team with the words People's Republic of China Cultural Market Law Enforcement written on it. In fact, it is not just Heilongjiang cultural management teams have already made appearance across the country. This is the uniform dressing ceremony of the Cultural Market Comprehensive Law Enforcement Team in Beijing, and this is the uniform dressing ceremony in Shanghai. This is a ceremony in Jiangsu province, and this is the ceremony in Wenzhou City, Zhejiang province. This actually is the Cultural Market Comprehensive Law Enforcement Team in Ningbo City, Zhejiang Province, conducting full-scale supervision at the Botanic Garden during a festival. According to the official report, quote, law enforcement officers filmed the entire performance process and checked the actors and program content based on the proved filing materials. During the performance, foreign actors strictly followed the approved procedure for their performances, and the scene was smooth and orderly without any violations observed, unquote. This is a ceremony in Guangxi province, and this is the law enforcement team for the cultural market in Wenzhou City, Guangxi. In Wuzhou City, Guangxi, conducting full-scale supervision of a performance event to ensure the safe and smooth progress of the performance. This is a ceremony in Fujian province. This is a ceremony in Zhaotong City, Yunnan province. This is a ceremony in Lantian County, Shanxi province. So from these photos, we can see that a massive movement of cultural police in uniform has been launched throughout China. In the future, not only will online expressions be regulated, but also on-site artistic performances and even entertainment and cultural activities in parks will be under the full-scale supervision of cultural police with continuous video surveillance. In fact, the so-called comprehensive law enforcement teams for the cultural market have not just emerged recently. They started as early as 2004. Over the years, some laws and regulations have been introduced. For example, this is the administrative measures for comprehensive law enforcement management of the cultural market. It is issued by the Ministry of Culture and Tourism of the CCP in 2011. This is the notice on matters concerning comprehensive administrative law enforcement of the cultural market, stimulated by the State Council of China in 2021. This displays the main responsibilities, organizational structure, and personnel arrangements of the Supervision Bureau for Comprehensive Law Enforcement of the Cultural Market on the website of the Ministry of Culture and Tourism of the CCP. Each province and city also has relevant departments and websites. For example, this is the website of the Enforcement Detachment of the Shanghai Municipal Administration of Culture and Tourism. This is the website of the Cultural Market Law Enforcement Team in Zhengzhou's Zhongyuan district. Even at the district level, they have their own website for the law enforcement team. I found the summary table of administrative penalties from the Beijing Municipal Administration of Culture and Tourism. It has various responsibilities, including movie and television industry, radio and publishing, tourism venues, news industry, cultural venues, printing industry, internet cafes, electronic publications, reproduction shops, public cultural and sports facilities, intangible cultural heritage, and so on, all falling under its jurisdiction. However, overall, these responsibilities are somewhat vague, and this sector was not very active before. Therefore, prior to this, the so-called comprehensive law enforcement teams for the cultural market did not attract much public attention. In recent days, especially since the new leadership of the CCP took office, although Xi Jinping has obtained a passport for lifelong rule, his sense of security is lower than at any time in the past. Therefore, this comprehensive law enforcement team, originally intended to administrative for law enforcement, has suddenly been given the power to wear uniforms similar to the police and now has the authority to suppress the people just like the police. Some people say that previously, in urban areas, small vendors and traders were regulated by urban management teams. In rural teams, there is a newly established agricultural management system that controls the vast number of farmers. This is an episode I did on agricultural management officers on April 18th. If you haven't seen it yet, please go back and watch it. Now, the CCP has introduced cultural management officers, which allows the cultural management teams to regulate all areas that urban and agricultural management teams cannot reach. This includes ideology, culture, film, and television entertainment, and all aspects related to online discourse. They have complete control over everything. If urban and agricultural management officers mainly targeted lower to middle class urban and rural residents in the physical world, cultural management officers can control social elites, upper class individuals, and intellectuals in the virtual and spiritual realms, achieving comprehensive social control without any blind spots. It should be noted that previous internet police mainly consisted of a list of sensitive keywords and instructions to delete inappropriate content online. They only passively deleted inappropriate comments when they appear online. Now, with cultural management officers, this cultural police officer will ensure that inappropriate content and works don't even arise in the first place. For example, there was an incident of Li Haoshi, a comedian, making remarks that were regarded as an insult to the military and Xi Jinping. The remarks were made during a performance that was only attended by a few hundred people. It was only because one audience member reported him to the authorities and secretly recorded the audio of the performance, which violated regulations and was then shared online, that it caught the attention of the authorities. They arrested Li Haoshi and imposed severe penalties on his company. In other words, if no one in the audience had reported him, the authorities would have had no knowledge of what he said at the time. With cultural management in place, such so-called violations during live performances will no longer occur. As mentioned in the official report, haven't they already stated, law enforcement officers filmed the entire performance process and checked the actors and program content based on the approved filing materials. During the performance, foreign actors strictly followed the approved procedures for the performances, and the scene was smooth and orderly without any violations observed. This means that not only Chinese actors but even foreign ones are now under the control of the CCP's cultural police. I've said before that the CCP brings us new surprises every day. The glamorous appearance of culture police is clearly the latest surprise on this long list. Therefore, whether it's the inclusion of Xi Jinping's quotes in college entrance exam questions or glamorous appearance of cultural police, they are both symbolic events of China rapidly undergoing a new cultural revolution and becoming more like North Korea. If you still can't see this, it is truly unfortunate. Well, that's all for today. Thank you so much for watching. Please double check if you are still subscribed to my channel, as YouTube keeps taking off my subscribers. And if you like my content, please spread my channel and videos or go to my website at jenniferzengblog.com. That's jenniferzengblog.com. Sign up for a membership or make a donation to support my effort. Thank you. Have a nice weekend and see you soon.